John Dacius and Stevie Steves. Come on back up. Come on, you guys. Day 3 of the NAMM Show, and I got to get these guys like moving. It's great listening to you. And welcome to NAMM, by the way. Welcome
Thank you so
We're just
much.
meeting for the first time.
Thanks,
welcome to
man.
NAMM.
Oh, hi.
I love your videos.
Oh, man.
I love your music.
We have fun, yeah.
I can tell. I can really tell. And there's a huge depth of it, too. I mean, you are doing what so many people next door, so many people here aspire to do. So many of us have aspired to do that from the day one. That's where music came into us, that we want to perform, we want to write, we want to be in the studio. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, what it's really like. I mean, there's always this mystique of what it is or what it isn't. And we were talking earlier about being on the road. So I'm going to start asking you by saying, what is it like to tour, really, for you guys on the road? Describe a typical scenario, day, trip, something like that.
I love it, personally. I think everyone would know really quick whether they dig it or don't. And if you don't do it. You're riding, you're just traveling all day. And I've, been on private jets touring and been in tour buses, and it doesn't get much easier. Everybody's like, oh, the day that I get a tour bus, it's going to be better. No, bro, it ain't.
If you get a tour bus, that means you have a bigger, you obviously have more people out on the road, so you're sharing space with, a ton more people. But I think what makes touring and doing the shows and the long hours and all of that, we were talking earlier, and we often find ourselves saying this to each other, thank God we like each other.
Yes.
Because it's there's times where we're just going down the road and we're on the 13th hour. We're on, we've been driving and driving and driving through the night. And, that some song will come on and we're like, yeah, turn it up. And we just love it. We wouldn't, we have the same goals, we have the same passions. And that's so important because if you have that one person that you don't share the same goals with, it's going to be a tough ride. Truly a tough ride. So we're really fortunate that we found each other and
well,
have
another
that.
thing with just any trip, things go wrong. And if you can't go roll with the punches, I think that's the most important thing. As long as you're not just stuck to a certain schedule that you got to keep, you'd be all right to tour.
I'll give you an example on a typical day. What might not go perfectly well?
I mean, flat tire.
Literally, it starts as soon as you wake up.
The glamour of it all.
Okay, I'm gonna get up. Time management is just so important because you're okay, I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna have to pack for the next 4 days. You want to pack lightly because it's you don't want to be the one taking up all the space. And being a girl, people are always like, oh, I bet she has a ton of luggage. No, I don't. I'm pretty good. I wear the same shoes every day, make it easy. But time management, so you can wake up and your hair dryer doesn't work. And you're like, oh, great. I'm gonna go out with a wet head today. Or
I think I just thought of the best story, the best little parable here. So we were down at the Key West Songwriters Festival this last year.
Oh my gosh!
And we had driven down there, which is about 24 hours from Nashville.
Yeah.
And we stayed. I won't name names, but it was the terrible situation.
Well, it was just not.
It was a friend of a friend. And they're like, yeah, you can stay at our place. So you get a lot of that too. Mm-hmm. Usually, people are very kind. And they'll always go above and beyond your expectations. But when they don't, brother and sister, they do not. And so
there's a lot of leverage there too, right? I mean,
yes. So anyhow, long story short, Stevie had wound up leaving our debit card at a gas station.
Yeah.
And so we got up in the morning.
Sleep deprived.
Thought we had lost our card. That's one thing. So you're okay. Well, where was that gas station last night? So we drove back. We found it. Anyways, long story short, we were about to head back to Nashville. We start pulling out onto the main highway there.
It was your birthday too.
It was on my birthday, and something in the van had just broken.
Started rattling. I'm literally going
rattling.
like this, and I'm like, John, this is not good. We have 22 hours of this. I don't think we're gonna make it.
But just like most things in life, it works out. If you're cool, if you can just be cool and say, it's not the end of the world, how do we fix it? No kidding. 0.4 miles up the road, there was a mechanic shop. We pulled in. They got us
Happiest
on
guy.
our way.
He was like, "Hey guys, you need some help?"
Oh,
We're like,
right.
"Yes."
So then we think we're in the clear, right?
Oh.
And we start driving back up to Nashville, and it's a Friday, and we hit Miami rush hour.
Oh my
so
gosh,
that's
the
another
worst.
thing about traveling that you wind up thinking about is rush hours and the cities you're passing through.
Time management.
Time management is so important. You got to give yourself.
We
time.
had a thing next door last night. We gave an award to the longtime tour manager, 35 years for Billy Joel. And he was talking about the
Yeah.
early days of actually understanding time zone changes, like
Yeah.
between Ohio and Indiana. Like,
Right.
that extra hour actually might be important when you get into the gig.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I think that idea is that you hit it on that every single day, I imagine something's
Mm-hmm.
going to come up. And you have to totally go zen and say, everything that's happening is to my benefit, even though if it doesn't quite seem like it at the moment, you know.
Right,
I remember in a
right.
truck we were driving from Tallahassee, no, we were in Orlando and driving, I think, to Louisiana on a Todd Rundgren tour. And at some gas stop, I had forgot to pull the back down on a Ryder truck. And most everything is strapped in, but I think the drummer's cymbal case was just lying down on the back. And I suspect somewhere around Tallahassee, I actually remember the bump that I hit, that I think it bounced and launched out of the truck an entire case of Zildjian cymbals. And I didn't discover it till probably Alabama somewhere. And I'm sitting on the side of the road going, I should go back. I should go
Yeah.
back for those cymbals, but they're probably not going to be there. We kept going.
No,
We
man.
got more cymbals. It was like, oh, I hate that. You know?
Oh, yeah.
But the fun part, then you get to play.
Yeah.
So then
See,
what
yeah.
happens then? I mean, you get to the gig, and tell me about that whole experience of landing at the spot where you're supposed to be. The day the hassles are mostly behind you, you get to play. The whole reason
You
you're
get to
there.
play.
So
Well, the famous saying, and it's very cliche, but it's so true, is that I get paid to travel. The shows are free.
Mm-hmm.
I play music for free. It's everything else that I get paid to do.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of, and so, yeah, you show up and, you know, for us, we're still hitting a lot of places that we've never been before. So there is a lot of unknowns. You don't know what the house, like the sound guy, and, you know, you just hope and pray everybody's like super nice and everybody else is organized, you know, because there's nothing worse than like having to wait on people. So you don't know what you're walking into, but there's nothing really, it's as good as it gets really when you get to play for 3 people or 300 or 3,000. It doesn't matter. You always have to, you know, we're always on just team kill it. You know, every time you go out, doesn't matter how big or small your crowd is.
you don't get bummed if there's like a half crowd in a place you've never been before. You're trying to win them over, but does it change how you approach?
That's a challenge, brother.
It
mean,
is.
That
Yeah.
is the best. I mean,
I love it,
obviously,
though.
the best is when it's like 30,000 people, and that's shooting fish in a barrel. But that's, you know, when there's just a few people, that's when you can really test your songs, when you find out if your songs are worth a crap, if your singing is worth a crap, you're playing. That's the test.
Yeah, we definitely enjoy, it's all work, you know, it really is. It's a lot of changing hats, and you find yourself doing everything under the sun, really.
That's back to the attitude. I mean, I have a 3 a.m. nightmare where I wake up and we've set up the NAMM Show and it's all ready to go and there's no one there. And the aisles are empty. I go, where are all the people? I'm not quite as secure, I guess, as you guys. I'm still dreaming about it.
Well, you know, it's really fun. You know, if one person, it's like, we're here, we make music and we write music and we do that all the time. And, you know, if you can affect one person, it's just, it's everything. You know, I'm one person, and I without certain music, I wasn't like into everything everybody was into. You know, I wasn't going for all the trends, and you know, I just hope I can be that for somebody. What are we doing this for? You know, right? So one person or 1,000 is really
And to
great.
your nightmare.
Thanks for bringing it up again. I would
Yeah,
moved
well,
on, but
yeah. I don't want to. But, you know, I used to kind of be that way. And until I think I just did it long enough to where you figure out that there are things you can control and things you can't. I can't control who's going to come to a show. I can't control who does or does not like my music. all I can control is my attitude and how much I prepare for the show and how much of my heart and soul I put into singing the songs.
Right.
That's all I can do.
How do you approach, I mean, the idea of musicianship versus the creative songwriting? I mean, all that comes together, but have you felt the pressure to continually improve on your instrument or to improve your songwriting? How do you feel about the actual act of being a musician versus being a communicator and writing great songs? What's the mix there?
You know, personally, I think it all starts with the song for me. And I think just through doing is how I wind up getting better at anything, regardless of it's writing a song or if it's mowing grass, you know. So I think it all works hand in hand to me. And I want to get as good as I can. But also, maybe this is totally off subject, my favorite bands were actually pretty bad at their instruments, but they wrote really great songs. So I don't ever want to get too good at playing my instrument because then songs have a way of becoming boring because you're thinking about more than...
Overthinking.
Yeah, you
for
start...
Sure.
Yeah.
Analyzing everything. That's just not fun. I don't like that.
How do you keep yourself from doing that?
You know, we have this, and it wasn't like, it didn't happen overnight, you know, but I think we both kind of just dive head first, really, with everything. I mean, every single day, we really try to, you know, it's like, okay, we're going to Facebook Live today. It is awkward. You're staring into, you know, like you don't see your audience really. You see people pop up and, you know, you just kind of have to do it. If it's good or if it sucks, you know, you just do it. You try it out and you try out a song and you have to be okay with failing. And that's really hard to do. But failing is part of it. And so, yeah, we just kind of tackle everything head first, really.
Well, it was another realization that I came to where I could work 20 hours on this song or I could work 5 minutes on this song.
Yeah.
And most of the time they're going to have the same result. So I might as well just turn off my brain, write like hell, and see what I wind up with because odds are the results are going to be about the same. You know, and so you might as well try something different. You know, you sit there and you analyze every line and every note and all this and every melody, but where's it gotten you so far? Why don't you just, you know, so I just try to let her rip anymore.
I mean, it sounded like a rigor to it. I mean, Paul Simon used to say that he would write every single day at a certain time, and if something came out great, if nothing came out, he was like going to work.
Yes.
So do you apply yourself in that sort of rigor, or how often do you write, and how do you wait for the muse to approach at 2 in the morning or something?
You know, muses are for amateurs.
That's one of those things you might want to write down, you guys. You know, I said there'd be a couple of quotable quotes.
If you want to be a professional songwriter, you need to write every day. Just like a professional, pick another job.
Bull riding.
Yeah, a bull rider. You
First thing that popped in my head.
You don't just ride bulls when you get the inspiration, you know, when you're...
All right, maybe a bad example. Let's see, carpentry.
Yeah. You'd be about the world's worst bull rider if you only did it when you felt like it, right? So
I guess I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the brass to find out, but you know, so maybe it's not every day, especially when we're on the road as often as we are. You don't get that the ability or just the chance to do it every day. But yeah, if we're off the road and for a couple days, I'm up every morning just writing garble. It doesn't even have to be intentional. Just write something and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I think a lot of these folks are actually business majors in music business, which can encompass anything from, you know, as we know, from this side of the industry, products or recording or so many different ways. But when I was your age, one of the great mysteries was, how does this actually work? So if you could walk us through, you don't have to use dollar figures, but maybe even percentages, but you are a working, living business. You happen to be in the music business. How does this work, especially today, with the streaming royalty reimbursements and all the things that they're struggling with, and the Grammys were, you know, lobbying again this week to try and get some of that reset to the realities of today of YouTube and downloading and streaming. Your business operates how? I'm a business guy trying to figure out, so how do you pencil this thing out? You tour, you write music, you're on YouTube, you probably have merchandise on the road. Just walk me through general categories of how this business works.
Stevie does all the money.
Well, you know, we have a business manager, but I still have to keep. Nobody's going to care about anything that you love as much as you do. So we wear every hat. We might have, so like we start the day, we check all of our emails, we make sure that we're on top of that every single day. This is a 7-day-a-week thing. You just hope and pray that your team is awesome. And like I said, you're gonna go through some teams, you're like, yeah, no, this isn't really my thing. I'm not really feeling this. And you just try to build this team around you that's going to be the most successful and like-minded and have the same goals. But we start every day with checking our emails. We look at our agenda. We honestly take it one day at a time because it can just get really overwhelming because you wear all the hats. Even though you have a publicist, even though you have a manager or a tour manager, essentially, especially in the startup, which we always kind of feel like even though we might take the next step, we always feel like we're, new. It's a new thing. And we have to adjust all the time. This industry is like, whoa, it changes every single second. There's something new coming out, and you are trying to maneuver your way through so much stuff.
Well, but to answer your question as far as the money and all that, at this point, when we go on the road, we basically just put everything back into our band fund, and we are fortunate enough to have publishing deals, which is what we live on every month. But before that, we just worked day jobs and went on the road and put the money back into the band. And honest to God, I've been lucky enough to have a few songs cut. I don't even plan on that money. Like once it comes every quarter, whenever Warner Brothers, I'll open the mailbox and be like, oh wow, there's some money. But I don't ever plan on it because it's so sporadic. And maybe until you start, writing like Havana or something, and you're like, oh wow, that's a big check. I try to just focus on like every dollar that we make on the road to go back into what we're doing to refund it. And
so by that you mean like funding new recordings, keeping
everything.
The crew paid and trucks and all that stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, gas. Typically when we're around Nashville, we take a third guy out with us, like an electric player, and do some stuff. But just any odds and end thing, if you look at any other small business that's ever been created ever, like if it's the cupcake store, if it's whatever, the hardware store in your hometown, they don't make money at all and for several years, and everything they have, they put back into the business. So it's like whether it's a side hustle you got that's paying your bills, that's kind of how we feel like our publishing deal is.
We call that a day job.
Yeah. Whether it's Uber, I know a lot of people in Nashville, that's what they do, and that's a great way to go as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But you're funding your own operations, and at some point those will become positive, cash flow positive, like a business, and at that point, multiple income streams, royalties, touring, any endorsements, or is the technology in any way helping fund you, YouTube or any of these other, Facebook or Instagram? Do you get any kind of ad money from that kind of stuff?
We haven't really seen any ad money, but we've seen it on the road where we'll see
it
fans.
definitely benefit. It's what you make of it. We haven't. We were talking. It took us we didn't come out with music. We're about to come out with new music in February, but we didn't have any product for a year and a half, and that is really hard as a touring act, and you're trying to get these gigs, and we're like, we're not putting out any songs. This is hard. And you're just literally competing with, it is just insane how many people do music. And you're like trying to just like be this light, going, hey, we're over here. And there's so many incredible outlets to build your brand and put yourself out there. But it definitely, it benefits. That in itself is a full-time job. It feels like we actually take days. We'll be like, okay, we're not going to write today. Let's go through all of our social media. Let's keep track of all of our numbers and see where we're at. Responding to every single fan that's ever reached out. Every week you say, hi, how's it going? Oh my gosh, hope we come to a town near you. And, that can sometimes take hours and hours and hours to
That is
do.
the business,
Yeah.
and anymore. That's, I think Nashville especially is always about 15 to 20 years behind everywhere else in the world. And sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's really bad, but it's still hit song city. But we look around at whether it's our friends, our very close friends that are having massive success now, and you just pull up Spotify, it's like these people don't have hits. Like that's so old. And it's gonna crush Nashville. That's why they don't want that to die. But it's, are you popular or are you not?
Yeah.
And it's not whether you're loved or hated, it's do you matter or don't you matter? And if you can matter, that's what we're trying to do. And it ain't easy. Because again, you're competing with fart apps, right? And kitty cat videos. And as cute as you are, you ain't cuter than a kitty cat. And so it's you either matter or you don't. And try to matter.
Yep.
So.
We Thursday morning, Bob Weir from The Dead was here. We were talking about they were really social networking before there was the technology to do it. And he said, we had a newsletter. Can you imagine The Dead, cranking out his regular newsletter? What are you up to? Well, we're playing here, we're playing there. Jerry's still alive. Whatever the newsletter might have been that day, but they used it to really develop, which is what we're doing now through these other vehicles. But the same idea. Connection to your fan base, where they feel like they know you, they get you, and you get them.
Totally.
Classic.
When they're part of your family.
Yeah, well, that's what is the glue, right? To make an artist and a fan stick is the relationship. But man, you have to do it yourself. Labels used to do that, and record stations used to do that. Now the artist has to do it,
And it's wild. People said that, and I've been very fortunate to. I was on a major record label, signed to a really ideal situation. But even after seeing that, you're like, what a joke. It's you. It is always going to be on your back.
Yeah.
Because again, like Stevie said earlier, there's not an amount of money that you can pay someone to raise your baby.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, questions. We're going to crank through a couple here. Who's got the microphone? You happen to be right near. You got it. You're.
Hi, my name is Storm Marquis. I'm a music administrator, and my question is for all of you guys. My question is, what aspects do you look for in a manager or an administrator that you find that you don't have time to do yourself? Because you mentioned you wear multiple hats, but what are you always needing help with?
That's a good question. Oh, you can go. Go ahead. I look for, we've been through a few managers, and finding the right fit. Number one, I hope they like our music. If you're managing a band that you're like, you know what, they're probably gonna make a lot of money, but I'm not digging them. That's an upset. So number one, I hope they dig our music. That makes a lot of things easier. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think to add to that, the biggest pitfall that we have found where we'll get a manager that really loves our music and and there's like our biggest fan ever, but they just simply don't know what to do with you. And you know, it's one thing to love a Ferrari, but if you can't drive a stick shift, it doesn't matter. It was no good to you. So
Yeah, that's good.
that's all.
I like that.
So that's, if I had to say one thing, and I don't even know how you know for sure until you just try, people. It's hard to know.
I mean, long-term sustainability is based on enlightened self-interest. If it's good for them and good for you, it's going to work.
I like managers that are willing to adjust as well, because like I said, it's an ever-changing industry. There's old ways of doing things, and now there's new models. There's new, ways to go about things in music, and people that are up to date. This isn't like, let's just go get a record deal. It's not like that anymore.
Right.
It's like
Creativity is had been undervalued for a very long time.
Yeah.
And now it's more important than ever. And to speak to the other part of your question, like the admin stuff, it's we're actually going through a situation where we had to let a manager go a little while ago, and the hardest
Who we
thing about
love.
it,
Yeah.
we absolutely love him, but the admin part was the hardest part of to lose, where it was like the people just doing like your daily emails, or like I'm talking like the very simple necessities that you don't even think about because you're writing songs or you're doing whatever else.
Yeah, can you call the merch company? Can you do this, like the clerical stuff?
It is
Clerical.
invaluable.
Yeah.
And that's all I can say. Yeah.
Okay, Bethany, you pick one. Someone from the middle here. Who's got a question? She's got a mic. Right there on your left. Bethany. There you go.
Hey, girl.
Hi, my name is Madison. I'm a music marketing student from Eastern Kentucky University.
Go Colonels.
Thank you. Woo! So, like you said, publishing deals. So I'm assuming you write for other people as well as yourselves. How do you get an in with other artists to be able to write for them and to then see publishing revenue off of that?
Do you want the truth?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, you wind up drinking beer on their back porch before they're anybody and writing with them.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good in.
It's for us, it's always kind of been the hang, and like I said, if you surround yourself with people that you are like-minded with, have the same goals, you start realizing like, wow, they're successful, they're becoming successful. We wrote, you know what I mean? Like, I never really looked at, obviously, like I aspire to write with some of the, the best songwriters in the world. I hope I get to do that. And that just goes with just working hard. But like you find that your friends, that are also working just as hard as you're gonna be like, okay. I mean, that's kind of what happened even recently with John. Our friend Anderson East, who it was like, we were all playing the same rounds back in Nashville. And it was like, hey man, come over. You're really great at, writing. And he went over and they just wrote a song. It ended up going on his album. And it was just like that. But yeah, I mean, I want to be around, better people than me. More, always. Don't ever be in a room, where you're the smartest. I saw that the other day. You're in the wrong room, And so if you continue to surround yourself with the hardest workers, and you're eventually going to be successful yourself because you're all in it together. Anyway.
I think it's right. No one is ever born to be, a star or a CEO. And like I say, my first NAMM show was actually 35 years ago this year. And I was 21 years old, and, just coming around here and welcoming, so many people welcome us in the business. Well, 35 years later, those same people that came in with me, we're running companies now.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're looking around going, geez, when are the adults coming back? And it's like, oh my God, it's us. So you're coming up with these artists, and now they're starting, you're all rising together. And the next thing you know, I remember like when we didn't have anything two nickels to scratch together, playing music on the porch, and
Yeah.
but you came up together, and it's such a neat thing over time to see that happen.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
Well, but that's the best way into any room because it's everybody else is doing the same thing. Like especially in Nashville, there's it's very cliquey, and that sounds bad to say, but it's just the truth. You have your group of friends, and you work really hard, and you inspire each other, and eventually somebody else has success, and everybody else is climbing on the train because you're friends, like legit.
Yeah.
It's so.
Pretty great.